just want to be chocolate. It's not asking too much, is it?
I just want the bare minimum in life to be able to eat a chocolate frog and a bar of chocolate, which is toffee, yet somehow also like some sort of abstract ladder.
Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I'm your host, Rich Owens, and joining me this week for the first time, this is really exciting. I haven't got to announce a new person on the podcast for ages, but here he is. Welcome, everybody. The newest member of the FM team, DeeBoiPlays. Dan, hello, friend. How are you?
Hello, Rich. I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm really, really good. I've been looking forward to this for a good couple of weeks now.
Yes,
same.
So
I'm really, really glad that it's actually happening. This is fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah,
since Slough.
Since Slough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Since
it's been like a child giddy at Christmas. That's what it's been.
The halcyon days of Slough, and what a time we had. So, for a bit of context for the people who are watching, we've been friends. We've known Dan for quite a while through streaming, and obviously after the departure of our good friend Kev, we wanted to bring in a new member of the team, and that we just thought everybody, and that this isn't us blowing smoke for the sake of it. We had the conversation, and then in our little group chat, everybody at the same time was like, DeeBoiPlays. Yeah, DeeBoiPlays. These probably makes sense. So no pressure or anything, mate. No pressure.
Pressure makes diamonds, doesn't it? It also
does.
Breaks a lot of things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. Part of your contract, you do have to give us diamonds on a fairly regular basis.
Did you not get the the box I sent you full of diamonds?
You've sent it somewhere. Yeah, I've not had any diamonds. I've got a lovely Ribena and a fan, which, admittedly, if I had diamonds and somebody offered me a trade, I'd swap them for
diamonds for Ribena. That is paperclip for house level.
100%. Yep. Which is why I also own 3 paperclips. So I'm very, very excited.
There you go.
3 houses for them, but all my documents are very, very secure. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Makes me very happy. Dan, for what we're going to do, because I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to assume that there's going to be a significant number of people that are watching or listening to this week's podcast who know exactly who you are, because you are a Football Manager content creator, which is it's a phrase that makes me feel a little bit weird every time I say it, because we just play Football Manager on the internet, don't we? It's great.
Pretty much.
But apparently that's content. But we're also, lots of people who are watching this are going to know who you are in some capacity. But at the same time, we also have to assume there are going to be people who are watching this podcast or listening possibly for the first time who may not know who you are at all.
Right.
So what I would really like to do is I'd just like to get to know you a little bit this week, if that's okay with you.
Sounds lovely.
Sounds
absolutely fantastic. I mean, talking about myself is one of my least favorite things in the world to do, but for the sake of a podcast,
yes,
I'm on it. I'll do it for you. Where'd you start from the very beginning?
From the very, very, very beginning. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So about 9 months before the 24th of November. No. Yeah.
Goodness gracious me.
Yeah.
Okay. Slow down. Yeah, slow down, David Copperfield. I think we're gonna let's amalgamate. So look, you play Football Manager on the internet, and for the people that are listening to the audio version of this podcast who aren't watching it on YouTube, our friend Dan here is sat in quite a beautiful West Bromwich Albion football shirt.
That's all right, isn't it?
So early days of FM, I suppose, pal. Has it always been? The love of West Brom, I'm guessing, has been there for quite a while. Is that that childhood team?
Yeah, I mean, well, West Brom is the family team throughout, pretty much, bar a couple of cousins who have all chosen very Man United, Tottenham, Coventry, because they were good in the 90s for a bit, weren't they?
Absolutely.
Mustafa Hadji? Was he there? That feels like a name I recognise from Commentary times.
Big Steve Agrizovic.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Now we're talking.
So a couple of outliers, but in general, the families are we're all Baggies fans. But weirdly, I'd say like early, like Championship Manager times, I never really played as West Brom, mainly because we were a bit rubbish. So there was, and being like 11 and getting into the games, it was like, well, who's good when I was a kid? You'd got the Man United team who hadn't long just done the treble. They'd be fun to manage because they've got all the good players. Or Celtic, for some reason, I'd always pick Celtic.
Yeah.
I think it was Henrik Larsson was the main reason I'd heard of him. So I was like, oh, that'll be a fun team to manage. Or I remember playing, it was the EA Sports Premier League Manager 1999 to 2000 on PlayStation. Was like, I think that was the first one I played. And it was, and again, picking Arsenal and sort of with like Nigel Winterburn, and they'd just got Youngberg and Overmars and whatnot. So it was like, oh, sweet. This is a really, really fun team to just set a stupid formation with, like going 4-2-4 with not like two attacking wingers, like a front line of four strikers, two centre mids, four centre backs, or four defenders, and then just going do goals, and they just cook, and then you're kind of like, brilliant. Then the part of your brain that gets into it goes, right, why is that working? And then that's where the, let's not lie, addiction to a game like Football Manager kicks in. And then you start going, all right, well, let's try and understand, why is this working? And you sort of start, ripping the puzzle apart, unveiling the magic trick. And then you're like, oh, cool, I get it. And then, just like all manner of manager games along the way. LMA Manager on play. In fact, at the end of the FM23 cycle, I streamed. I found LMA Manager 2002 in a secondhand store for 50p. So I was like, well, first of all, I'm definitely buying that. Why would I not want that in my life? I loved this game. And then we streamed it for like the week before 24 came out, just to kind of, well, let's just have a bit of fun. We managed Ipswich. We won the first game and lost everything else because I'd forgotten how to use the game. And I was like, I don't understand. Why does it take 4 hours to go from this screen to the next one? But what a time. What a time.
It's great. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast for a number of reasons, but I think we have a lot in common because I think, firstly, you've formative years, we both support comparatively unsuccessful football teams.
Yes.
So it's a really, because you speak to a lot of people who support, more successful clubs and their formative years of management simulators. You go back to your old champ managers, things like your LMA managers. Like, well, I support Arsenal, so I'm just going to play as Arsenal because I know all the players. Whereas when you support a club like the Albion or a club like the Wednesday, you go onto these games and you look at it, it's like, oh, do I really want to spend like the next 10 hours trying to get the best I possibly can out of, Marcus Tudgay? Probably not. Is that really how I want to spend my time today? No, because better footballers exist in more exciting leagues. So I'm just going to go in. I'm going to go in that way.
There's only so many hours I want to spend building a defense around Jared Hodgkiss. And then after a good hour, after 1 hour, then it's like, cool, let's manage Chelsea because they have players that were good and I'll win things. Yeah.
I'm going to start Sheffield Wednesday save. I'm going in my central defensive partnership. I'm going to put Mark Beavers next to Chris Wood. Beavers and Wood. They don't work well together. No, they don't, because we've just conceded 4 goals against Charlton.
And then I'm not going to touch that working.
Why is it not working? I've gone for silly names again. It's not a transfer policy. It is. It's just not a very good one. So it's having you around this for me. It's like it's a brother, because it's just it's like, right, we both support uninspiring football clubs. But we both really like football. So it's how you then work that into like I say, your management simulators. Like I love LMA Manager as well. I've said this unashamedly. I am slowly but surely trying to turn this into an LMA football manager based podcast. I think it's
we can
easily
get
going
that
to happen. We can easily make that happen. We can
Yeah.
easily make that happen. I had a lovely moment streaming a few weeks ago. A friend of mine from back in the day, my friend John. Shout out to John streams is at Pixel Bandits on Twitch. He's a lovely variety streamer, very, very nice man. He popped up in my chat, and as we were chatting, is because you know how when you watch people playing Football Manager, you load up Football Manager and you play along, don't you? We all do it. He was like, I am playing LMA Manager 2007. I'm like, yes, you are. So proud of you. Yeah. And he was like, oh, this is brilliant. I haven't played this in a decade. And it feels like it was yesterday. And I'm sure it does, pal. It's like, it was so silly. Such a fun, simple, silly game.
I miss the challenges that they put on those games, like the challenge modes, where it would be like, oh, pick a team. 80% of the team are out injured until the end of the year. Can you still win the league with them? And you're like, no, I can't. But
nobody can do that.
but I'll load it and I'll look at it for a bit and then I'll get upset, but I'll give it a go. Yeah. Unbelievable challenge mode. They were kind of like had like a precursor to like draft mode as well, where you'd have like 100 million and you'd build a team and go and take on the Premier League or whatever league you're in. You're like, this is awesome. Like I can just pick my favorites.
It was great fun. We used to play it. John and I, that was our thing. We'd create clubs. And the problem LMA Manager had compared to draft mode is that if you were setting up two teams, there was no snaking picks. First person got to pick their team, and then the second person got to pick essentially the dregs.
They got the leftovers.
Yeah. So we used to have to structure it. And I was like, right, I'm sat here, notepad and pen. And I was like, right, you pick a player. I'm picking a player and we're going to do it that way. But if you're very tactical about it, if you put the clubs into the Premier League, if you were careful, you knew which two Premier League clubs it always removed. On 2007, Fulham and Portsmouth for some reason. So those clubs would be just wiped from history.
Something to do with Baba Diop. Just the hatred towards him.
That was it. So you put those in and then all of their players just instantly became free agents. So like, right, I'm not going to spend too much on certain positions because I know day one I can get Papa Diop, but I can get Carlos Bocanegra, but I can get them for free because they don't have clubs. Tactical,
genius,
tactical,
big brain move.
Big brain plays. In terms of your enjoyment of football management simulators, how did you get from same way that a lot of people do, casual enjoyer, addict again, strong word, accurate word, but a strong word, casual enjoyer of these games to, you know what, I'm going to go on the internet and I'm going to play these games in front of people? Because it's a weird transition. It's a weird transition for a lot of people. How did you get there?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because you're absolutely right. Kind of deciding to go from I'm this game that I really, really love and I've played offline for 20 years, 2/3 of my life. And then you go, all right, well, I'm going to do it on the internet because I must be all right at it. Like I'm doing okay. But it started about a year before I started doing FM content. I was streaming on Twitch, I was trying to do the variety streamer thing. And I played games like Final Fantasy VII, the Batman Arkham series, a couple of like puzzle games, did some like Pokemon Nuzlocke runs and stuff. And I loved doing it, but I'd always find literally as soon as like the stream was done and I'd finished beating up the Riddler, controller down, bye folks, end stream, FM loaded. Immediately to be like, right, I need to turn my brain off whatever I've just done and I'm going to play for like 6 hours just sat in front of some Wrexham team that I've turned into whatever they are. And then I had like a very long hiatus. Like I took about 1.5 years out, mainly because it was around, I started doing it during COVID. So there was that, I've got time. And then life opens up again, being in a wedding band, gigs started happening again. Teaching you're allowed to actually go back into school. So it was kind of like, I don't really have the time to do this now. So I paused it, but then I moved into this flat around the launch of FM23, and I kind of just decided, do you know what? I'm just going to give it a go. Like, worst comes to worst, I'll stream to nobody and I'll lose all the viewers that I had before and I just won't visit Twitch ever again. Best case scenario, I might get a handful of viewers. And this is how naive I was to it again, because I think we're probably all in agreement. This is kind of a niche game as well, even though that the fan base it's getting bigger. Like, you look at like some of the things that Mars was posting at the start of the year, like something like 5 million downloads or whatever it was in the first week, something crazy. It's like, that's awesome. I stupidly thought like, there's probably nobody streaming FM on Twitch. Maybe I'll be like the trendsetter, and then I search FM, search Football Manager 23, and you're like, oh, well, there's all the people that I've heard of: Zealand, Work the Space, Lelujo, etc. And just a row of like, these guys are really good. These guys are really good streamers. I'm gonna have to try, aren't I? I'm gonna have to really try. And weirdly enough, that's how I met David Nyholm, wonderful friend of everyone, mod for the entirety of the FM community. Literally, like, day after I streamed, I was like, right, I need to make a friend within the Football Manager community. He was the only one that was live when I searched it in that was speaking English. He had a Danish flag. I love Denmark, so I was like, this is the guy for me. Hi, how's it going? Tell me about your save, blah 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 blah. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, and then it's just sort of gone from there to there. Really started with West Brom as like a beta thing, and then focus. Then did Rochdale, and then it just goes from there, really. And you sort of build on those things.
I think yours is it's a cool story because you kind of went from the variety aspect, and again, in my spare time for the audio listeners, air quotes, because I'm saying spare time, which is a joke because I don't have very much of it.
Yeah.
Because families and work commitments and just being nearly 40. In my spare time, I play lots of other games, and I've always thought to myself, maybe I could stream this. Maybe this would be fun to stream.
Yeah.
I've streamed 2 games in 3 years: Football Manager, and I did a Resident Evil stream as a sub goal for an anniversary stream did a few years ago.
Right.
Because horror games make me genuinely uncomfortable.
Yep, same.
Bearing in mind, the original Resident Evil 2, I had the N64 version, and I played that game to death. To death. I adored it. Give me the HD remake, terrified me, made me so uncomfortable. I streamed it for about 3.5 hours, and I've not gone back to it. Because I'm like, this just made me feel weird and anxious, but I play other games, and I'm like, I could stream this. This might be fun, like our previous colleague Kev. I'm a massive fan, huge fan of the Borderlands series. I love the Borderlands games, and I think to myself, I could stream that, because that's what I've been doing. A few evenings this week, I've been playing a bit of Borderlands. But then, if you look at the broader spectrum of games, and part of the reason variety streaming is wonderful, but at the same time it frightens me, because I look at a game like Borderlands, for example. I watch Borderlands content creators, and they have such an encyclopedic knowledge of these games.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't even come close to being able to replicate in that. And it's the kind of thing that people say you watch Football Manager to either learn something or to be entertained. You still have to have a rough idea of what it is that's fundamentally happening on your screen.
Completely.
Something like Borderlands, I'm like, I've played it a lot, and I know what I'm trying to do, but I still don't understand the game enough to be entertainingly good at it, because you still have to kind of have a vague understanding of what it is that's going on. So like doing stuff like that. But I've watched people do things like Pokemon Nuzlocke on YouTube. So that looks amazing. That looks like so much fun. I don't know enough about Pokemon to do it properly. And that would be to my detriment, because there's funny levels to it, isn't there? Oh, isn't it funny? Oh no, one of his Pokemon's died. Oh, let's all laugh at the man. It's like, oh no, you can't beat the first gym boss because he just doesn't know what he's doing. That's not entertaining or it's neither of those things. So I don't feel like I have a good enough understanding of other games to be able to actually stream them well. Whereas Football Manager, I do. I get Football Manager because I've spent such a disgustingly large amount of time playing it in throughout my teenage years and my adult life. So coming from like a variety streaming background and then moving almost now solely into FM,
pretty much.
do you feel that you like, if you had to compare those two experiences, variety streaming or just streaming a game like Football Manager, which of those two brings you the more happiness, I suppose?
Ooh, I mean, doing the FM content has definitely, I guess we spoke a little. It's kind of I draw some parallels with music in a lot of things because that's kind of what I've been brought up doing and whatnot. But it is almost like joining a music scene, like being like, oh, we're going to start like an indie band, and you are now part of the indie scene, and you have friends that are in indie bands, and they're a little bit different from you, but you get along because you've got the same objective. And doing Football Manager almost felt like, oh, cool, I'm amongst my people now. In a way, like I loved doing variety streaming. I really did enjoy doing it. But with variety streaming, I think there is an inconsistency. Whereas, like, because people are not there for the game, they're there for you, which is great. Because obviously it means people like you, but then if you aren't playing games that people want to watch, no one's going to come and hang out. Whereas with FM, it's kind of like, well, we all know what FM is. We're playing Football Manager. Even though we're all doing different saves, it's still the same game. So there's easier things to latch onto, I think, from a streaming perspective. But then at the same time, yeah, like I say, like becoming part of this community. And again, like think of like the context for like two out of the last 3 weekends. Met up with all you guys in Slough for the first time. And again, it was like walking into Slough Weatherspoons was like meeting a bunch of friends that you haven't seen from school for ages. Yeah. Like walking in there, we had like a long table which had got like Gav, Shaughnessy, Dadson was in there, Salty, Owen, all that, like Mono had come over from the Netherlands, and we're like hanging out, and you're just like, I know all of you guys because I've hung out with you all, and it's like wonderful. And I'm sure the variety streaming world can have that, but it's like we're a group within a group that are like, it's like Breakfast Club almost, like a weird little collection of human beings that all have, they all just happen to play the same game, but we're all so, it's wonderful. And then, and then going off to Denmark and meeting Mad and Mr. Teeny and Tommy and hanging out with David again. And it's just like, we're all very similar people at the core of it. Even though we've all got very different, backgrounds and upbringings and all this various stuff, we're all a bunch of nerds that just love playing football games. That's all it is.
Bloody love a spreadsheet. That's
love a spreadsheet.
Love a spreadsheet. And I think you've drawn it. We'll kind of touch on, because I say you've mentioned kind of your musical endeavors a couple of times there, and we'll dive into that shortly. But I'm very much like yourself. I've come from not particularly successful, but I've spent a lot of time involved in music, comedy as well, equally unsuccessfully, might I add. And I think streaming is that there's so many similarities between all of them, because at the end of the day, if you were to put them all under the same umbrella, it's the entertainment industry in some capacity. Streaming, and especially with a game like Football Manager, it's a little bit of an anomaly. And your experiences may be wildly different to mine. They may be quite similar to mine. A lot of the time, when it comes to music and it comes to comedy, for example, there's the mentality of everybody involved is that everybody wants to be successful, because of course they do, because that's, for a lot of people, that's the objective.
Sure.
But in industries like music and comedy, there is only a finite amount of success to be had. And, it's, as much as you may like other comics, you may like other bands, you want to be successful. And there's only X amount of gigs. There's only X amount of stage time. There's only X amount of festivals. So you want to be on those. You want that. You want the gigs. You want the time. You want the stage time. You want the success. And that almost has to come to at the detriment of somebody else, because if you're succeeding, it means that somebody else isn't.
Yeah.
Whereas what my experience with streaming has been, everybody wants everybody to do well.
Yes.
Everybody has got everybody's back, you know, as a
Definitely in
community.
the FM community, I've noticed
In the
that
FM
a lot.
community, yeah. Everybody just wants everybody else just to do well, because if one person's doing well, it gives other people the opportunity to do well, because there are so many new faces. There are so many new, you know, I've been streaming for around 3 years now, very inconsistently, but if you look at the, you know, you see names like, I don't know who that is, and you know, but we're going to go raid them after a stream, and I'm going to make a new friend. I'm going to experience a new person. Oh, this person's got, you know, they're on the cusp of getting, you know, 400 followers. Let's drop in. Let's get them over that milestone. Let's watch their content. Let's hang out for a little bit. Everybody wants everybody to do well.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, it was lovely. Slough was brilliant because it was a bunch of people who were all meeting up because we all quite like Callum. Okay,
Yep.
would never say it to his face though. Never
No,
say
we
it
can't.
to his face.
We can't. His head will explode.
Insufferable. His hair just gets curlier and more buoyant. It makes me sick.
Imagine how I feel. I got no hair. And he's there walking around with just this luscious mane.
I know it's real as well. I've been in an Airbnb with him twice, and I you know, when he goes to sleep, I do just check that it's not some kind of it's on there. It's really on there.
Swine. What a swine.
I know. Hate him. I'd say that to his face. Callum, you really good person. You delight. Ugh. But we also all really enjoy Football Manager. And, you know, a bunch of streamers, a bunch of people that, you know, for the vast majority of us that were there stream it, you know, a couple of people that blog it, you know, but we're all there playing the game in some capacity. And again, there's varying levels of, and again, I'm using air quotes here for the audio listeners, success in terms of, you know, the platform that people have built and all these kinds of things that, you know, some people who, you know, create content take into consideration. But you wouldn't, there was no way of telling that. There was no egos, well, I'm on 2.5.
I get to sit at the head of the table.
I go to hang out here. You 3 figures. How very day there outside over the road. You can look at us. You can look and occasionally we'll throw you scraps from the pub.
Yeah,
and it's just such a nice environment of people to be in because everybody wants everybody to be successful. Everybody was so complimentary of everybody. Like you've mentioned Owen a couple of times. I love Owen because you just have a chat with him, and within 5 minutes he's singing the praises of like 7 different people for like, completely valid reasons. And but that summarizes it beautifully for me because everybody wants everybody to be successful. Everybody wants everybody to succeed, and that's a rarity, I think, in any kind of umbrella of the entertainment industry.
I think FM kind of ties in with that a little bit because we've all obviously again we're all playing the game. We're in this with this weird group of people that have all experienced the same heartbreak, very specific upset within a game and success within a game, hopefully, you know, but we've all been FM'd. We've all had, you know, we're all trying to sign free players, and as soon as we offer a contract, 50 teams from around the world go, oh, you want him? Well, I wanted him. Oh, we'll all try and sign this guy. So we've all been in that, we're all in the same massive boat. We've all experienced the same thing. So then I think that helps with like wanting to champion each other because we've all suffered in a way. So we're all like, no, I want you to do great because I've been where you are right now. And I say it to like the chat all the time. Like if someone turns around and they're like, oh, I've been top of the table for the whole season. Last game, we lose 1-0 and the team that was second drew their game. They finished a point above us. And it's like, I've been there. It sucks. Next year's your year. You've got this. And it's just, we're a group. Like, I want you to do well. You want me to do well. We all want everyone to do well. Let's have each other's backs.
Exactly. It's a support group. That's what
it is. Basically what it is, isn't it?
It's just a spreadsheet support group, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, my spreadsheet has disappointed me. So has mine. It's been trying. Look, we've talked music. You know, it's come up a couple of times here. But again, for people that don't know, obviously you've mentioned you currently play in a functions band, which is really cool. Has music kind of gone, you know, has it gone hand in hand with football for you? Is it something that's always been a big part of your life, or has it been like a later development for you? What's the, in terms of your musical background, Dan? Where does that lie?
Weirdly, they kind of both like it's like both turned on in my brain kind of around the same time, both when I was about 8.
Mm-hmm.
Like watching, obviously being a West Brom fan, going and seeing them a few times. I didn't really say this, but it was the 98-99 season, Man United's treble winning season, that made me like go, wow, football's beautiful. Like I'm into this. And at the same time, hearing certain pop songs and going, music's great. And always having music as part of your life. I didn't really properly like try until I was 14. And fun spoiler. This is a fun little story, is why I play guitar. So in year 9, we had like an end of year barbecue, right? We just done our Sats, I think it was. And they were like, all right, well, to celebrate, we're going to do a nice little barbecue. And a couple of my mates, one of them was a drummer, one of them was playing piano. And they're like, we need a guitar player. So you've got a guitar at home, haven't you? I was like, I mean, yeah, my dad's got a guitar. Do you know how to play Wonderwall? And I was like, I can learn it. Sure, I'll give it a go. It was probably my first ever yes and. My first ever full improv. Yep, I'll give it a go. And went home, was like, Dad, you have to show me how to play Wonderwall. I need to learn this now. Sat at the school playing it, and where I was sat, all of the attractive girls in our school year sat in like a semicircle around me. So being 14, the first thing that comes to mind was, they like me, like, and I barely know how to play this. If I get really good at this, they're gonna want to, like, they'll just do anything to be with me. Of course they will. However, because of how I'm wired, I then didn't speak to women for about 5 years and put all my energy into, right, can I play this Funeral for a Friend song? I can. Sweet. Right, what's next? Slipknot, let's give that a go. And just, went completely the wrong direction. But then I've made a job out of it. So it's not the worst, decision I've ever made.
That's it.
You know.
I used to do a bit about how, I joined bands because, chicks dig bands, and this would be a really good way of getting attractive women to look at me and want to be around me. But then playing the kind of music that I played, the only kind of people I attracted was dudes that looked like me.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what a massive waste of time this has been. This is not what I was trying to do by any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, it's the double-edged sword of like, oh, now I've put all these hours into learning this instrument. Great. Now I can go and join a band that I want to be in, which happens to be a metal band. I love metal, so I'm going to go and play in a metal band. 99% of the audience look exactly like me. And I mean, I have enough like issues with my own appearance as it is, like looking in a mirror and going, you're not how I imagine you in my head. Like, you should be slimmer, you need the hair, all this sort of stuff. I'm not really that fussed. But you get to the, and then you turn up the gig and you're just like, oh, wow, you're all fat losers like me as well. I don't want to talk to any of you. Oh, God. And they're just like, oh, I really like that mode that you played that song in. Did you? Great. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
2 more shots, please. Let's just go home. Yeah.
That chord progression was really interesting. Oh, just smell nicer.
Yeah.
Smell nicer.
Yes, please have a shower.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where music's been, and it's taken many different journeys, playing in covers bands, and like now I play in a wedding band, but I've got, I get to do a couple of like originals projects, writing my own music with friends and stuff, which is really fun, and I love doing it. We're not really like out there gigging and doing stuff, but it's just fun to keep that creative side of your brain ticking over and all that sort of stuff, and just getting to do the thing I enjoy, and in some ways as well, like even if I'm not doing stuff with the band, doing the little jingles for people on Twitch is like, it scratches an itch of like, I need to be creative. And then Callum signs a player called Woodgate, and I'm like, right, what? Give me something to do for that, so I can sit and work on a jingle for Woodgate, and then we're good.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful thing. I mean, those jingles make me so happy, and being the recipient of a couple of them myself as well. It's such a natural part of like a DeeBoy stream as well. It's just very there, and it's very subtle. Like, you don't lean into it.
Sure.
Like it's not at the forefront, but it's such a wonderful ability to have. Like being a competent musician must be a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Because I oh no, I still have frequent anxiety dreams about just I'm in a venue and I'm about to go on stage. I'm like, I don't recognize any of the people I'm on stage with. Clearly I'm not going to know any of these songs. And then it's not like a dream where you drive off a cliff and you wake up. Like I'm 10 minutes into this gig. I'm like, oh no,
the drummer's still counting in the song you were meant to start going. Come on, mate. Like,
but like it's one of those things that just being technically proficient enough at just to be able to do things a little bit off the cuff. It's so lovely. Because I still get impressed watching people do things that I would like to do that can't do. I still find really, really more impressive than I should. You know, show me somebody juggling, and I'm like, oh my god, look at it! He's throwing. I can juggle, but again, like a lot of things in my life, not very well. I learned the fundamental basics, and I went, this is all I'm ever going to need. I'm fine.
I get the same thing. Again, lockdown was a big one for this. Like binge watching people building, anyone building anything. Like it started with me watching people build guitars, but then all of a sudden I'm watching a guy build a cabinet, and now some guys were putting up a house, and then there was like a spate of videos of like guys going out into the middle of the forest in like Malaysia and building like a hut just out of all the raw materials. I was just like, wow, this is so impressive. Just like someone being creative. Yeah, so there's something. It made me feel like I'd achieved that. Yeah, I feel like I've built that because I watched you build it. So I built 4 guitars, a house, and a desk, on over a week. Great, one achievement. When realistically, I was waking up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then going on a Pokemon hunt on Pokemon Go and being like, oh, there's a Chikorita nearby. I better go and get it. I'm going to go run. What is that? I don't know, but it looks fun. Yeah.
Oh, it really is. And like I say, we've touched on those jingles. The speed at which you put them together, again, it's mind-blowing. Like, you say it scratches that creative itch. Have you got any, like, because it's hard to watch people stream these days that, again, are friends with you, involved with you in online in some capacity, that just don't have one? Are there any favorites that stand out? Is there any that spring to mind?
That's the hard one. That's the real hard question. Are there any favorites?
Is that like, I'm asking you to like choose your favorite child?
No, if I had kids, that would be so easy.
I've got kids. I've got kids, and it's so straighthtforward. It's whichever one is quieter and sleeps the longest.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that's not annoyed me today. I love Sad Ocean Man. I love Sad Ocean Man because even though it was, and obviously that's one that I've made for you, and I can't, half of them I can't really remember what made me do the thing. I'm sure I know it's just come to me. I know exactly what it was. You'd got the Ocean Man redeem, obviously, and you were playing a lot. I think Kev just put in chat, is like, oh, you could really do with like a sad version of this for when things don't go well. And I literally like just walked in from work, turned your stream on, saw that comment and went, right, let's see what we can do. And it just sat there, I was like, right, what's the saddest sounding thing I could do? I was like, who's really sad? Damien Rice. He's always unhappy about something. So let's make it sound like Damien Rice and Tom York had a baby and it's about an ocean man. And just put that together. And that's a real enjoyable one. I like the one I made for Tom from Tarn, which, depending on the, consume excrement would be the polite title for it.
Sure.
Because he has a phrase within that group of people which is on their soundboard, and he sent it to me. And weirdly, again, how my brain sort of works sometimes, I played it and I was like, that's a D sharp. The pitch of was it? And I was like, just load this into Cubase. Let's just have a look at it. What's the timbre? Okay. And then just started building. And then I'm just like, I was like, Tom, thanks for sending that thing to me 2 months ago. I've made this as a thanks. And he was just like, yeah, cool, sure, you just made it, thanks. It's like, yeah, that's I had to. There's like an obsession to do that. I really the one that started it all, which is Callum's, probably is my favorite of all of them, purely just because it started the madness of it, which all happened because, again, so a bit of context, I feel like viewers of me will know this, but last year I had a wrist injury. Specifically, it's a lovely thing called Wartenberg syndrome. So that sounds good, doesn't it? And it's something to do with the nerves that go. I'm holding my hand up for the camera, people watching the video, but yeah, nerves go down from like your thumb through your forearm, and I have an issue with that nerve, which makes it very difficult, as you can imagine, playing guitar because your hand does a lot of movement. And I was really worried for like a good 8 months of like, am I gonna be able to play guitar again? Like, am I ever gonna be able to actually do my job? I was watching Callum in a little bit of a down mood, and he just went, it's time for Why Callum's Question of the Day. Why Callum's Question of the Day, to the tune of obviously Harry Hill's TV Burp. And I was like, huh. And I like pretty much like, as you might not be able to see it on the camera, like I've got my keyboard right next to me, and I just sort of sat there and was like, can I do this all with just my left hand? Could I work this out with one hand? And I spent about 15 minutes playing it like almost like one note at a time, very painstakingly made it through it, and then just sent him a message like, you got a way I can send something to you? And he was like, oh, sure. And just like, send me his email, send it over to him. And he was just like, did you just do this? And I was like, yeah, I've just done it. And he was like, oh, well, this opens up the world of everything. Could you make me a jingle and like a theme song? And it just reignited like I don't need a guitar in my hands to be good at music. If I have an instrument and I have one working hand, I'm okay. So it was like, cool, right, let's make a jingle. And I'm literally, again, visual people will be able to see this, literally standing over this, like fully vibing, one-handed playing things, like trying to make a jingle. And it was like a weird little awakening of like, oh, cool. It was almost like you're back. Like you can do music still, which is also a reason why I never ask people for payment on those. Because a few people go, can I give you something? It's like, no, because this like turned my brain back on, gave me power again over what was quite frankly a heartbreaking injury. So all of a sudden it'd be like a singer losing their voice, or all of us losing internet access and going, oh, I can't do the thing. Yeah. So that's
keyboard and mouse is gone.
All of the space bars have been replaced with like one half of a Twix. So you can't put spaces between where it's delicious, but I can't do anything with this now. Yeah. And I've just got chocolate all over my fingers.
Oh, I know. What a wonderful scenario to be in. How dare you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
Lovely Twix fingers.
Twist on it. Twix fingers.
Lovely. No, it is. It's a truly wonderful thing. And in terms of the wider, I suppose, the wider world of football manager based content creation, it just adds that ability, just adds like another element to what makes you just a very endearing person. Thank you. Hanging out in your streams has always been an absolute pleasure. It's fun, and it never feels phoned in. We were having a little conversation before we went live about people's longer term objectives towards things like streaming, content creation, whatever you may be doing. And it just, a DeeBoiPlays stream is just a nice place to be, because there's you're a great streamer, you're engaging, like you're fun to be around, like you're fun to chat to. Obviously there's the music stuff in the background as well, and that just adds like another element to it, because again there aren't many people that could do that have that ability. Like I say, it all goes back to that. You've spent a really, really, really long time working on learning how to do something to a very, very high standard, and I've never done that. Like I've played in bands for a really, really long time. I'm not a particularly competent musician. You know, the biggest compliment anybody ever paid me, one of my old bandmates said this is the closest I would ever get to being in a band with Paul Simon from The Clash, because you're very, very good at what you do.
Yeah.
But there are going to be times where we need to bring in a better bass player to play some of the songs that we've written, because you physically don't have the ability to. There you go. Here's a fun music fact for everybody. Some of your favorite Clash songs, Paul Simon didn't even play bass on. Norman Watt-Roy from the Blockheads did, because he's really good at playing the bass.
He's very good
Paul
at
Simon
bass.
looks very, very. He's got such soft hands. I met him once and we shook hands. They're so soft. I'm like, you don't know.
You've never done a hard day's work of your life, have you, Paul?
He's
Terrible.
never grafted. He's never grafted once. What, Roy? How dare you? Oh, he's got clip-ons. He's got clip-ons. He just pops his everyday hands off. He clips his bass playing hands on, which is one massive callus, and then he just it's incredible. Then he clips them back off for the meet and greets.
It's like a Lego hand. It's just a pincher. Just
exactly
slides up and down the bass neck.
That's exactly what it is. But and again, it's the same with me. I think streaming is the same. Music is the same to an extent. Comedy was kind of similar.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something. I was like, right, what is not the bare minimum, but what do I need to learn to do that's going to enable me to do this thing to the standard that I want to enjoy doing it with? Sure. I've learned that now. Cool. The Ramones need 3 chords. Who needs 4? Like, come on now.
This isn't jazz. We don't need 4 chords.
Exactly. 4 chords is jazz. It's
prog rock, really, at a point as well. Like
practically is. If you've got 4
A,
chords,
D, and E, possibly a G if you need it, because then this hand's free for holding a beer.
Exactly.
Open strings.
Exactly. If you're feeling, particularly fruity, chuck a G chord in there. Why not? But it's exactly anything at 4 chords. You're probably listening to Pink Floyd at this point.
Yes.
And that's fine. And it brings me, don't get me wrong. If I go back and look at anything that I've done before, I'm like, oh, this brings back happy memories. I enjoy this. But I don't have that wider skill set that would enable me to be better, I suppose. But again, it's at my age now, being an older man, it's the time and it's everything else that goes along with it. But it fits so organically into your streams, and it's such a cool thing that you can do to be able to do to that standard. On the subject of music and streaming, there's something that I've noticed about your streams, Dee, and that's that we both have an astronomically high channel point redemption on our streams. Mine, for 150,000 channel points, I'll come do a stand-up comedy gig in your house with a bunch of comedians.
I'm not that far off that, by the way. So
that's a worry. That's genuinely a worry, because I feel like it was there for ages. It was there, and then there was nothing else to do with them. And then I started putting, then Sad Ocean Man turned up, and suddenly that was everyone's jam. And I was like, we're just going to press this button loads of times. But that's my. Do you want to tell the people about what's on yours, Dan?
So I have a redeem which is 1 million channel points.
Mm-hmm.
This is maybe a good example of why you don't tell the internet everything about yourself, because obviously playing in a wedding band, I've done it for the last 7 years or so, in and around various different things. But there is one song that I have played at every single gig for the last 7 years. We're talking 400 plus gigs, possibly more, by The Killers. I don't want to say his name because it's almost like a Beetlejuice element to this particular shiny gentleman. Because if I say his name 3 times, the song will start playing in my mind and I'll look like I've just been to war. But like, I think it was probably like April time during FM23. So just someone like, just making small talk about gigs, like, oh, what's some of like your favorite songs in your set list? And it's like, well, I like playing Footloose because that's a bit of fun. Who doesn't like a bit of Footloose? It's fun playing things like Hey Jude is always good. Crowd really enjoy playing that and whatnot. And I'm like, right, well, what songs do you hate playing? And I told people the songs I don't like, which are things like Living on a Prayer. Obviously, all of these songs, don't get me wrong, great songs. I just can't stand them because I've heard them so many times.
Mhm.
Like Living on a Prayer, Summer of '69, Sex on Fire, and then Mr. Brightside. God, I feel dirty. Rich. I've just said his name. So yeah. And of course, because I also have a redeem on my channel called Pick a Lick, where someone can just say like, oh, play this riff from this song because fun. And I'll spend 5 minutes learning it and do that. And I also used to have like a song request thing. So you could put in the URL of a song or just type in the name of it and the song would queue on a playlist. I have subsequently removed that because for about a month, all I got was Mr. Brightside over and over and over again. You know how that was a little bit more hush because I feel like if I say it a third time, and then that door's going to burst open and Brandon Flowers is going to come in out of and just start shouting at me. So yeah, so it is a banned term in my chat. So if anybody says, even if someone says, "Well, look on the bright side," well, you may have just lost the Champions League final, but look on the bright side. You won all the other competitions. Immediately timed out for like a second. Like we don't mention that man around here. So I made it so again to sort of appease the people that constantly said, "Oh, could you play the riff? Could you play the riff?" Like, if you want me to play it, you've got to put up with me for about 10 years. So. And by then, hopefully, because this is the really annoying thing about it, Rich, it's actually quite a difficult riff, and I still play it wrong from time to time. Having played it 400 times, there's something about the hand shape, where it is on the neck of the guitar, that just every now and again, if you don't get your finger just in the right place, you can't do a certain thing, and I'll be playing it on stage and be like, you've done this 400 times, and you're still messing up that one. Just forget chorus. Yeah, sing along, everyone. Yeah. Well, so that is a banned song in my.
It's it's the illegal song. Look, the best advice I can give in the scenarios where you make a mistake on stage, it's the Wilco Johnson advice. The best advice ever been given to a musician by musicians ever. Wilco Johnson. He was the guitarist in Dr. Feelgood. A phenomenal guitarist.
What a guy.
His advice to guitarists and bass players was, if you're ever gigging and you hit a bum note, carry on as if nothing has happened, but just turn around, just shake your head at the keyboard player.
It's always the keyboard players.
Always the keyboard. It's always the keyboard player that did it. So yeah, just do that.
Fun thing about Wilco Johnson. So before I went off to uni and did things, I worked at a guitar shop, and one of the guys that worked there, a lovely human being called Tim, used to collect. Guitar nerds might know this amp, Vox AC30. Used to collect old AC30s, these huge amps, which is what Wilco Johnson used. And I think it was for that farewell set of gigs. Wilco Johnson used like some of the AC30s that he'd got for like, because he would like, I think he did a gig in Coventry or something like that, and was like, oh, I need some amps.
I went to that gig.
Oh well, okay, brilliant. Well then you saw.
There you go. So I've heard it. I've heard
slightly more fun as well. I also use that same amp, so I've technically played Wilco Johnson's amp once, but it wasn't his amp; it was my friend's. But there we go.
There you go. That's very, very cool. Yeah,
and I did play. Yes, I had to,
because you have to.
It's the rules. Yeah,
it's just the rules. It's just the rules. In this, there you go. I've got a tube here, and inside this tube is a poster. And it's from here tangents, because that's what we do. So here's a Football Manager podcast about Wilco Johnson. Wilco Johnson. Again, for context, for people listening who might not know who Wilco Johnson is, if you've ever
watched a left back from the 70s,
played for Cov, proper journeyman in non-league football. He was also in the first series of Game of Thrones. He was the executioner. Payne? He was the executioner in the first series of Game of Thrones. He guitarist, and then he got really, really poorly, got the terminal cancer diagnosis, did a 4-gig farewell tour, which was not enough gigs, which I went to. And then he just had some experimental treatment. which just like got rid of loads of the cancer. So he just lived for like another 10 years and just carried on gigging. And after that, he recorded an album with Roger Daltrey from The Who, where they just played a bunch of old like Wilco Johnson songs. And I've got a massive poster which has got that album cover on it, and it's amazing. It's embedded in this tube. I cannot get it out.
No,
I want to get it framed, but it's in there. I bloody love Wilco Johnson.
It's got to be done. But then what does it replace? Does it replace Batman and Robin, or does it replace Grace and the Bigger Picture?
It goes somewhere else. It goes somewhere back there. I'll make it. I'll just put it just for a little something for me.
I will say this. It took about 9 months for me to actually notice the text on the Ahoy frame. about 9 months, and then I went, "Oh, fun!
Oh, that's what that says." My favorite thing is when my wife works from home, she sets up her laptop in here, and she works in HR and recruitment for a university, and she's interviewed people and forgotten to take those two pictures down in the background. And she asked that, like, the candidates are answering a question, and she'll notice they're like, "Look at it." That's what it says. Yeah, it says,
If you want to get in, don't acknowledge this.
Don't you just pretend that's not there. Pretend that's not there, and we'll just keep pointing to it. That's the move. I feel like we should probably try and get this back on the tracks in terms of Football Manager. I suppose, because
why not?
It's the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously we've talked about your streams and your whatnots. You've been really, really busy this year with your stream save. Is it 27 seasons you've streamed so far?
I'm currently on 27 seasons, and interestingly, by the time this airs, I will have paused the save.
Okay.
Because 27 years is a long time to be stuck in a universe that certain things just haven't happened in, and you just get annoyed. Like, for the wider context, I guess, for people who aren't familiar with the save I'm doing, it's a journeyman around the Mediterranean called On the Med, where basically it started off, again, Tony is slightly to blame for this. It started off because I originally said, I'm just going to do like a journeyman around the Med, have a bit of fun, and try and just win something in each country. And then TJ said, well, that doesn't seem like enough. Well, you've got to try and win like everything, haven't you? You know, they got to give it a go. So they're like, okay, well, so I've got to win every division. And he's like, yeah, win every division, win every cup, basically make it British Steel, but Sunshine.
That save that he didn't finish. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that one. So I was like, great. Okay, then. If it makes Tony go, good work, Dan, I'll give it a go. And on the whole, it's actually been quite good. Like, again, 27 years in that universe. There's 8 nations. So you've got Slovenia, Gibraltar, Croatia, France, Spain, Italy, Greece, and Turkey. And I've completed 3 of them. And I need like 1 or 2 things in a lot of other ones. I'm currently at Napoli. And this year, I think I'm going to hopefully, really, really hopeful that I win the Serie A and the Coppa Italia. And then it's like, cool. I need like just a few bits then. But it's been a long journey. It's been really long.
Yeah. It's been great though. There's been so many wonderful moments. I think you're in a very, very similar situation. Well, comparatively similar situation.
Yeah.
We're both doing journeyman saves.
Yeah.
And you know, I not that long ago accidentally won a Champions League. Like it was completely by accident, which was great fun, but it happened. You did a full undefeated season with Galatasaray.
Yeah.
And you won including European football. You won everything in 1 year.
Yeah.
And that
also
for a lot
by
of
accident,
people. Yeah.
By the way.
Absolutely. It's the best way of doing it. Imagine trying to win a European trophy.
Yeah. Heartbreak.
Gross. But it's a difficult one because part of you goes, how do you follow that? Like, because for a lot of people, that would be, well, I've just completed Football Manager. This is never going to happen again. but like it's a really difficult thing to keep yourself engaged, and also I guess kind of keep the audience engaged. Now the benefit that you have is that you're an engaging dude, so people are going to enjoy watching you regardless. But how do you, like, after that season, for example, how do you approach, right, what do we do next now? Like it's not an easy thing to do.
It's again, like you say, it first of all, it genuinely was like complete accident. It really was, because I mean, maybe not 100% accident, because things like the league, we all use the SAS skin, wonderful SAS skin, and I played every single league game, and we had obviously great results. I think we drew 3 games and won 31 because it's a 34 game season in Turkey, which was in itself was kind of like, that's pretty sick. And it's one of those things, and I said this ages ago, because with it, it's like every single week, every time you get a win, I don't know how you'd feel about it, Rich, but every time those things happen, in my head, it's kind of like, well, surely we're failing now. Surely the fail comes now. I'm not thinking, doing a classic sort of like, well, we play this one game at a time and we see how we get along and hopefully it all works. No, it's like, well, I've got to fail. Surely I have to fail here. Please let me fail, because now we're at game 27 and we haven't lost and my anxiety is through the roof. Can we please just lose so I can go, oh, see, cool, I'm not perfect. See, I didn't do something perfect. It's fine. But you keep winning. All of the Champions League games, apart from the semi-final and final, again, mentioning the Saskin, it's got the instant result button. Open, very, very openly throughout this save, I've made it clear, I do not care about success in Europe, because it's not the point of the save. I'm there to win leagues and domestic trophies. Success in Europe, if it happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, I'm fine with it. Like, I'm not bothered. I instant resolved every Champions League game and we made it to the semi-finals and we got Barcelona. And in my head, it's kind of like, well, surely I have to manage these games now, because if I don't, you lot as viewers are going to be annoyed at me that I didn't try and win the Champions League. But then we did. And then, we won, the Super Cup, the league and the UCL. Like I say, following that is, again, in my head, it's kind of like you say, there was a bit of me that was kind of like, I don't think I need to play this game anymore. I think I've done it. I think FM is, I'm finished with it now. I don't have to touch this game ever again. But I know exactly how you follow it up. What you do is, as soon as you win that second trophy or that final trophy and you've done the unbeaten season, you immediately resign and you go and join a third tier Spanish side. That's how you rebound. What you do is you immediately go, I've just had amazing success. Let's go and manage Ibiza now, because what else is there to do now in that universe apart from try and win the league with, I've been like, as I say, like, it's been getting long because I've been waiting for like the Barcelona job to come available. So Spain is like, nice and straightforward. Like a couple of seasons I can spend with Barcelona, spend a load of cash, win some trophies, nom nom nom, everyone's happy. But because those jobs haven't come along, weird things like that have happened where it's like, all right, cool, we're going to go and manage like SE Bastia, who are a French side on the island of Corsica. And you kind of go, that's kind of interesting. And then they develop into the Bastards. And then all of a sudden, every player in your team is nicknamed after Sean Bean characters. Because that's the logical step of a save like that.
Obviously it is.
Yeah, completely. You've got Boromir and you've got Sharp, Richard Sharp running up and down the wing. You're like, this is right. This feels like the right next step. But it was a very surreal moment. And following it up, it got to the point in the save that's like, well, now I just need to, like, again, it's a weird thing. The way I would think about it is like, well, I can't not win now. Yeah. If I don't win everything now, people will be like, it's one off. That is a bit of fraud. Yeah. Got very lucky there.
People are invested in the story at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
As well, which helps enormously. Like if that was
definitely.
If that was the first club, if you go, right, spun the I'm going to manage Galatasaray. Whoops, this has happened. What do we do next? Whereas I think it fell at the right time, I suppose. Yeah. And there was enough time left for you to kind of go on and do other things, I suppose. But it's
Well,
been such a fun save.
Yeah, well, it happened kind of after, like, so we started in Slovenia, a little club, NK Dekani, still not responding to any email or message I've sent them on any platform. That's how small they are. In fact, good friend Zigarath, he lives in Slovenia, and he actually he had to go into the store to kind of be like, do you have anything? And they were like, oh, no, we don't, no one buys merch. Why would we have merch? And we're like, because the people want it. It's like, oh, well, we'll make something if you want. It's like, sweet, good, cheers. Let us know when you're ordering kits for the first team. But yeah, started there. Then you go to Gibraltar and you have a bit of fun in Gibraltar. Like, oh, this is a rubbish league, but I love that. I love being in a rubbish scenario because there's, it's an underdog thing, right? It's like that again. It's like the West Brom Sheffield Wednesday. We're underdogs.
Yeah.
The Chris Brunt story. The Chris Brunt tale. Brunt brothers. And then going from there, going to Croatia, which is a great league to manage in. And then from Croatia, I got the Valencia job. And Valencia, you're like, oh, sick. Valencia, this is a good team. Finally, we've landed on our feet. Couldn't do anything with them. Couldn't compete with Real Madrid and Barcelona. And you're like, I just want out. And then went back to Croatia, and then the Galatasaray thing happens, and now it's just been like, oh, well, just playing tidy up on the checklist, to manage all the divisions that that are all low down but are fun ones to just like climb up and go on a bit of an adventure with. So it's been a wicked save. I've really enjoyed doing it because I'm not really a journeyman person. I do prefer picking the team, and if I end up not being at that team for whatever reason, fine. Like that's FM. That these things happen. You adapt and you deal with the scenario. But like last year I was Rochdale for 19 years, and it's like cool. Like this is a fun story to tell because like you say, there's a story to be told there. Yeah, there's got to be some narrative, I think, to a save. Like say, if I'd started off and I'm going, cool, right, we've got to win every league. I'm going to start at Barcelona. Oh, what a surprise! I won everything. Cool, Ryle, what now? It's like you starting at like Kashima Antlers is like, okay, it's an interesting team to start with. It's not you didn't pick a big boy to start with. Now you're getting the big boy jobs, and now you're at Dortmund, and it's like, cool, let's see what we can do with Dortmund now. Let's try and take over the Bundesliga. And you accidentally win a Champions League because FM. But yeah, you had that fun, like steady climb up through things, and now it's a story,
Yeah, it becomes part of it becomes part of a bigger thing, doesn't it? And very much like you, this is my first proper journeyman. Yeah, I've never, I did the Scandi Triple Crown, which was brilliant fun, but again, it's structured. You know where you're going, you know what you have to do. I've never had and now we're managing in Portugal. Yeah. Like I've never had or not, as the case may be, in my save. Up yours, Benfica. I'll fight you.
Benfica. They've made enemies of all of us.
They have. This is going to turn out into like a call-out video now. Benfica, I'll fight you. I'll fight you. I've heard what you've been saying. Yeah. I'll fight you.
We'll put another curse on them.
Yep. Send you 3 biggest men, and we'll make it right.
We'll have them.
Have them all. We'll have them all. FMT versus Benfica. That's, by the way, Dan, that's part of the remit of you being on the podcast. You have to give us diamonds, and you also have to fight Benfica with us.
But bring it on.
Absolutely. I reckon I could take Angel Di Maria.
It's a day away in Portugal, isn't it?
It's a day
an
out
afternoon.
in Portugal. It's exactly.
An afternoon.
You know what? It's something to do.
Yeah.
But again, it's the story. The story is the nice part behind it. As you say, it becomes part of a bigger thing, doesn't it? So it's
totally.
It's really, really good fun, and it makes me want to do. It's part of me's got the bug, and it's a difficult decision to make. When you create content about what's the story going to be. In my case, Former Glory. That happened by accident. Look at me go. And then choosing what we're going to do for FM25, because again, it's not a million miles away now. It's a really, really difficult decision. It's a tough one. Like part of me goes, do I want to do another journeyman because I've really, really enjoyed this one? But then you go, but people have just watched me do one for an entire year. People are going to want to see that happen again. It's been a big part of Callum's thought process over the last few months about his content coming up. 2 brilliant years with Slough and all the wonderful
Yeah.
things that have happened as a result of it. But then what happens next? You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a tough one. But you know, as Kev alluded to previously, you know, he's terrified of a one club save, because what happens if it goes wrong very, very quickly?
Yeah.
Ooh. So it's difficult. Just have to be good at the game. I think that's what it comes down to. Just have to be competent, don't we?
You have to, yeah. You've got. I think I do genuinely think that regardless of, like, you see it with a lot of people, there's a lot of luck in FM. There is a lot
100%.
of luck. Like, again, both our journeys this FM, like, we could have, like, both of the first teams. Imagine if both of us didn't win something first year. Like, even just something as little as that. Like, if I hadn't won the second tier of Slovenian football with a stupid tactic called the hammer, then there's a chance that I wouldn't have, you know, gone on to manage Galatasaray. It's the wonderful thing of a German. Like, if you, because what did you win with Kashima? Was it the league and the cup?
No, I think it was just the league.
Just the league.
With Kashima, the only objective was the league. Very much like you with Galatasaray. There was nothing like, you know, they hadn't won a league title for 7 or 8 years. So that was the big one. So if we hadn't done that, it was, you know, and there was pressure. You know, but again, it all boiled, like, for me, there was a very distinct moment with my save very early on, and it was when I got talked into bringing in David De Gea on a free. That was the catalyst for it going from being, okay, let's be right. Let's sit down and let's really try hard at this, and let's analyze everything. David De Gea is available on a free, and you could afford him. Yeah, go on then. Let's just do that. That'll be fun. David De Gea and Quagliarella. There you go. That's the solution to all my problems.
The 2 players every team needs.
Every team needs. Every team needs
those 2.
But it was. But then that was the catalyst for it. You know, I think when that signing went through, I got out my own head, because it was very, very, you know, early days of a save. I think a lot of people are the same. You're very in your own head about it. You're like, right, this has to be successful. This has to happen. I have to accomplish this in X amount of time. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Do you want to sign a really, really famous Spanish goalkeeper in Japan? Yeah, go on.
Yes,
then.
I do.
What a great idea that is. And then suddenly, like, all the serious thoughts are like gone.
Yeah.
Smooth brain vibes.
Fine. Well, whatever happens now.
I'm just happy to be here. What a treat for everybody. So it's a really, really, really nice moment. So it's fun. It's what makes them fun.
Yeah, it's what makes the save so good. It's so much fun. All these and then obviously having on yours as well, having the Ocean Man thread as well, which started with the beta. Just having some form of Ocean Man pretty much in every single team since you've
pretty
started,
much so far. Yeah. There's been an Ocean Man of some description in the vast majority. There's not one at Dortmund yet, and considering again that there's been some offline play just due to lack of streaming time, I'm still behind Bayern in the league in the 9th or 10th season, I think it is now, and maybe that's because there's no Ocean Man in the team. So that might need addressing.
We need an Ocean Man, and that'll solve all the problems.
Speaking of Ocean Man, I think it's important to clarify this early doors.
Sure.
There has been a bit of a debate on the podcast over the last year.
Go on.
Over the capabilities of 2 strikers from the world of football.
Yeah.
Ocean Man and Big Romelu Lukaku. I've just realised the shirt that you're wearing, and I can see where this is now going. Which camp do you fall into when it comes to those two men in the world of Football Manager and beyond?
I know what you're thinking.
Do you know what I'm thinking?
Well, because Big Ron played for West Brom.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
If we were currently sitting in the 2011-2012 world, and Big Ron was on loan with us, I think it was the season. It was either that or 12-13. I think it was 11-12. I can't remember.
Halcyon days.
Yeah, halcyon days. If we were then in that exact moment, I'd be saying to you, who is Victor Osimhen? I've never heard of this player. and they're like, he's 9 years old, he's not done anything, I'd be picking Big Rom. I gotta go Ocean Man. I've got to go Ocean Man because God love Big Rom. I love Romelu. I think he's great. But I swear he's got like 50p super glued to his boots, and the ball just pings off in every direction. He's got an absolute horror first touch. He can't seem to score. He couldn't score in a ladies' establishment, let's say. He's in a bit of a. He's been in a bit of a bad place. He was great when he was at Inter. He was great for West Brom. He had some very, very good years at Everton. If he'd stayed at Everton, this might be a different conversation, but he chose to go to Man United and it all went wrong. So Victor Osimhen, he's Ocean Man. He's Ocean Man.
He's Ocean Man.
What's not to love about Ocean Man?
What's not to love? He's got a great theme tune. Where's Lukaku's theme tune? That's what
exactly.
I want. No, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
And I can tell you this: I'm not going to write one.
No,
I'm not going to come up with one for him because he hasn't asked.
Nor should you.
As soon as I get that DM from Big Rom saying, "What's up, D-Boy? I really need a jingle for my Twitch streams," I'll be saying, "Listen, Romelu, I've been thinking about it, and unfortunately, you're not as good as Victor Osimhen, so I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it."
Yeah, sorry.
And he'll say, "Fair's fair. Give me a spud," and then we go about our different ways.
Absolutely. He's got Hulk hands. He'd crush you.
He would.
Huge. It's such. I think it gets forgotten because we talk in such high regard about Victor Osimhen. I love Romelu Lukaku. He was
awesome.
And I think for a lot of people of a certain age, he was one of my first ever. Oh, there's a Belgian striker at Anderlecht who's only 16, but he looks like he's got a bit of a future. Oh, where have you heard about him? Football Manager.
Yeah,
he was a lot of for a lot of people of a certain age.
Early wonder kid, right?
He was early wonder kid. Him and Eden Hazard as well. He was. I love him. I think he's great. And that season at the Albion, like both my older stepbrothers are Albion fans, and they still talk about him now. Like revered by them. That the hat trick last day of the season, like Fergie's last game.
Chef's kiss moment.
Superb. Absolutely superb. I
was going to say, in some way, I almost have to say thank you to Big Rom, because him joining West Brom, I had a small period of time where I didn't play manager games. Him joining West Brom made me go, "Oh, I'd really like to manage West Brom because he's good."
Yeah.
And I bought FM. That was like my first FM. And again, ruined university for me. Like, the grades just because, I've got Big Rom and I need to score goals with him. So let's take a trip to South America, finding some friends and try and win the league with the Baggies. And
what's not to like?
What's not to like? Yeah.
To like.
What guy?
He's wonderful. Needs to be loved. Needs to go to a club that will just put their arms around him and go, "We think you are brilliant."
He's currently treating like Serie A like some sort of like dating show, where he's treating it like Love Island. He's just fraternizing with every single one until he finds the one.
Exactly. Yeah. He's Michy Batshuayi in Turkey. Like, how many of the big Turkish clubs have you played for? Yes, I have. That's all he needs. That's all it. In fact, again, I've said this before. The psychological damage that man must have suffered to have, he wanted to go to Chelsea because he wanted to emulate his idol, Didier Drogba. And Didier Drogba retires from football. Didier Drogba leaves the club. In comes Romelu Lukaku. And they go, "Oh, but you're not quite as good at him. Go out on loan for a season somewhere. Go show us you can do it." All right, I'll go to West Midlands and I'll go play for West Bromwich Albion and I'll score loads of goals and I'll look like an absolute world beater. Oh, God, you look really, really good, don't you? Well, you can come back to Chelsea. But what we've done, and you're going to love this, Romney, you're going to love this, is because we don't actually implicitly trust you, despite having a really, really great season at another a Premier League club that you shouldn't have scored as many goals as you did for,
and got them their highest ever finish as well.
Yeah. Even after all of that, we don't actually trust you that much. So what we've done is we've re-signed the striker that we bought you to replace. Get this. We're going to start him over you. We are. We're going to do that because we don't think you're as good at him. Despite him now being 2 years older, he's lost all of his legs. Like, he's not the player that he was before, but we still think that he's better than you. How do you feel about that? And then his mind just explodes. How do you come back from that?
And then just salt in the wound. Guess where you're going now? Liverpool. Oh, we're going to Liverpool. No. You're going to go to Liverpool, but you're going to go to Everton. Yeah. And guess what? You're going to have a great time there, but we still won't like you when you've finished. So
sorry.
Yeah. We're going to sign everyone else, every other number 9 we can find. And they'll all be awful, but they'll still be picked over you.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
Still not as good as Victor Osimhen, though. So there you go.
Exactly.
That's the problem he's got. That's the problem he's got. Work on that, Rom. If you're listening or watching, which I'm sure you are, we can help. We're here to help.
Come back to the Hawthorns.
Please. Come back to the Hawthorns.
You'd be welcome with open arms.
Why wouldn't you want to come back to the Hawthorns? You know, it's that's it. That's all he needs to do. It's the right choice for him at this stage in his career. Clearly.
Exactly. Nice 2 up, 2 down in Solihull. He's sorted.
Exactly. He's played with some of the best of the world, but he's gone, you know what? I've never shared a pitch with Adam Reach. There you go.
Do you know who I'd love to shadow box with? Jason Malumbi. He'd be he looks like a right hoot. You know.
There you go. They'd have a great time together. Imagine those 3 on a podcast.
Oh,
I'd listen. What a treat.
I would definitely listen if those 3 had a podcast.
100%. Straight on the Patreon. Don't care what you get for it. Straight in there. Oh, right. I think we've been talking quite a long time, Dan. We should probably start to wrap this up because if we don't, we're going to go on forever.
Oh, yeah.
Normally, at this point in the podcast, we'd ask people to plug themselves. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Dan, if people would like to watch you with your On the Med save, doing the wonderful things that you do, playing the wonderful music that you play, where can they find you doing that?
The best place to find me would be twitch.tv/DeeBoiPlays. And it's spelled really weirdly. DeeBoi plays.
Perfect.
That'd be me. What about you, Rich?
Oh,
where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Jebaroo. That's where you can find me. Watch.
Was that you?
That's me. At the time of recording, Jeb was streaming last night. He was back on, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So go show Jeb some love.
Yeah.
And Callum as well, who's on holiday at the moment, but he is currently knee-deep in editing all the footage that he got from our time in Slough a couple of weeks ago. So I'm very excited to see that when that comes out. So Jebaroo, Callum, and twitch.tv/RichOwensFM as well, if you are so inclined.
It's really good.
Hopefully, touch wood, I'll be back at the time of, well, if you're watching this on Patreon, maybe today. If you're watching this publicly, maybe also today. Who knows? I've got a little bit of time on Monday and Tuesday to do some things, so maybe some streaming. Who knows? Imagine. Oh, goodness gracious me, imagine. I know.
That'd be a delight.
I know. Imagine that.
Can't wait.
Imagine. You might not have to imagine it. It could just be reality in an amount of time. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, mate.
It's been wicked.
I've really, really enjoyed it. And the really nice thing about it is that we're going to get to do it over and over and over again forever.
We get to do it again and again and again until we're like a tired old married couple sick of each other, which will never happen because we love each other forever.
Yes, that's all I want. In your face, my wife. There you go. See, this is listen to this is what we're after. Okay.
Yeah.
These are the levels.
Yeah. Brilliant. This is a relationship you wish you had. This level of unnecessary affection.
She won't acknowledge the fact that Chris Brunt is one of the best left-footed players of all time, and I think that's really what's holding us back in our relationship.
So she doesn't even know who Barry Bannon is, does she?
She doesn't care. Doesn't care. He's just a very small Scottish man. There are loads of them, but he's the best one.
He is the best one.
Just the best one. Oh, this has been lovely. Thank you, Dan, for today. I've had a brilliant time. And thank you, the audience, for listening, for watching, however you're consuming this podcast. We appreciate you enormously. That brings us to the end of another episode of Football Manager Therapy. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Love you lots. Bye bye.